everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So you and I are both a little bit on the ragged edge right now.
Yes.
Right?
Clinging on to the wreckage, as my friend Fiona says.
So we've both been working a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And not just working a lot, but kind of moving in a lot of different directions.
Yes.
Doing some new things, doing some old things.
Yes.
A lot of balls in the air.
Yes. Precisely. And it's the end of summer, so all this big transition is also just round the bend.
Yep. You don't have it anymore. You have reflections of it. I definitely have it, which is the end of summer.
Oh.
Kids August is the worst.
I know.
End of August is the worst for families. It's like,
yes.
Do
you remember what I
said
said
to school
at the beginning of June? Do you remember what I said? There are two kinds of summer.
Mm-hmm.
There's June summer and there's August summer.
So here we are.
Yeah. Yes.
In any case, my question to you is,
am I drunk? No.
yeah. Well, that could be the answer. That could be the answer I'm looking for. But what is your kind of go-to thing that you do when you get a little overwhelmed?
Oh.
And I'm only asking you this because maybe was it last week? Last week, you totally called me out on the thing that I do when I get overwhelmed, and it kind of pissed me off, but it was also true.
Oh, rats. I'm in trouble again. Always in trouble.
So now I get to ask you, what is the thing that you do when you get overwhelmed, a go-to thing?
Okay. All transparency, because that's what we do here at the Self-Awareness Journey. It depends on my level of flip out.
And what level flipped are you right now?
So if there's a scale of 1 to 10, okay?
Okay.
1 being the best flip out. So just kind of flipping out, not really.
Oh, not just a mild
Just a
case.
little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
And then 10 being full cry, whirling dervish, Tasmanian devil.
Full on.
Full on.
Yep.
Triggered state.
Yep.
Overwhelmed. Okay. So if I'm at a level 1, obviously I eat chocolate. Obviously. I go to
So that'd be every
good
day.
snacks.
That's an every day.
Yeah. Okay, fine. And Jelly Bellies. I'm kind of into Jelly Bellies right now. Yeah. Good chocolate and Jelly Bellies. So if I'm in a mild freak out state, I reach for some unhealthy food.
Yeah, reach for the candy, the sweets, right?
I hate to admit
food
this.
makes us feel better. So when you get
a
little sideways,
if you're at a 1,
yeah.
If you're at a 1,
Yep.
that's a good thing.
Yep.
However, in my advanced stage of life, if I'm at a 6, right? That same stimulus will give me a major stomach ache. So I cannot eat junk if I'm really wound up. So then what do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
I try to read, and I have a really hard time focusing. So then I usually go outside and sit. I usually sit on my deck. That's what I do.
Good. That's probably
I sit at my deck
than
and
eating chocolate.
Yeah. And then, you have to change your food when you're out on the deck and it's hot because chocolate melts. So you got to pick something better like Doritos. Come on.
All right. What?
Don't be a rookie.
What? What happens when you start getting close to 10?
Oh, well.
Not very
every
often.
little thing.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it very, very, very rarely actually happens. And I think it's because I have a very high pain tolerance. Isn't that sad? But I have a very
No.
high pain tolerance. I take a lot of stuff in and can still manage myself pretty well, I think.
Yeah. So the
How
thing
about you?
Well, the thing you specifically called me out on that was a little irritating, and then when I thought about it, was like absolutely correct. That's how you know it was a good observation.
I know what you're gonna say. Okay, yep.
Right. So,
Yep.
Right. So last week I was like, I got a lot going on, and I was getting a little spun up, and then, like what I told you was that, about all these other projects I was going to work on.
Yes.
Right.
I knew you were gonna say
And you go,
that.
oh, the thing you do when you get really like spun up is you start more projects. I was like,
Yes.
no, I don't do that. I definitely don't do that. I was like,
My
oh
gosh.
crap, I do that. Like I didn't realize that I did that.
Oh, and can I plus one my observation since we're right here? Because I thought about that later too. You know what else more specifically you do? If you're going to give me a hard time about my eating my body weight in chocolate, the thing that you specifically do is if you're really feeling overwhelmed about something in your personal life, like a project or a habit or something that's in full cry for you, then you will add on stuff also on the personal side. Okay. If it is work related, I don't know, like a new startup or a new idea
new art project.
A work project.
Yeah, art project.
Yep, a new art project. Yeah. Then if it's that, then you will pile on at work more. But you don't often have both sides going at the same time. Not often. I don't even know if I can remember a time when you have.
No, yeah. This summer I definitely tried to pile all sorts of work and personal stuff all in one summer. And
you did it too. You actually did it.
But this
might explain why your eyes are kind of big right now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I want us to talk about is like that awareness for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is like the best thing. Like, you have a good friend when they call you out on your BS, right? Like,
yeah. No, wait, don't.
Don't do that.
You
Oh, wait, I
do.
totally do that.
Yeah, you do.
But this idea that like when we get ourselves into certain situations, we will react in a certain way. And sometimes we don't actually have the awareness that we are acting in maybe a easy to predict way. And just what those things might be. So
yeah, it's funny too, because as we started before we hit record today, we were kind of talking about this idea a little bit, but I really think that this idea of the things that can get us going, right? I think that we, depending on our own level of energy or our own level of awareness in the moment, I think we can get spooled up without recognizing how fast and how much something can affect us when we are busier or we're already, in my coaching, I always say, when we're in our centered place, everything emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically is in alignment, and we just are like a straight up column, right? We're just really centered. But when something starts to wobble and we're not feeling centered, whether mentally we're, having a disagreement with someone or disagreement with ourselves, or emotionally we're feeling upset about something, like when that wobble in us happens, I think we become very susceptible to outward stimuluses that can trigger us more or quickly. Like,
yeah. So go ahead. Because I was thinking about what you said there. So
yeah, let me just give you an example. So last week I was preparing for some live events. So I've got like 3 weeks of live events coming up, and I was trying to get out ahead of my schedule and get them all ready at once. because I just knew traveling, doing one, traveling, coming back, and then trying to get ready for the second with that fatigue of travel, and that I just didn't feel like I could honor my process if I did that. So I was trying to do all of them at once. And I realized though that pressure that I put on myself to get out ahead of it, I was able to do that. I was able to accomplish all of these things, but the little things that set me off, while I was trying to have this hyper-focused state, I wasn't doing myself any favors. Like I was allowing myself to be attacked by these external things without recognizing how much it was causing a ruckus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, the way I kind of hear you saying that is like you were actually becoming overstimulated, right? Like you already had enough happening and enough balls in the air that you're already struggling to juggle them all. And then you throw another ball in the mix and you're just like, nope, right? And you kind of, all those little things push you over the edge. It's like the, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, and the little things that I'm referring to are self-produced. So let me be more specific. So I'm sitting at my desk, okay? And everybody picture when you're at work, okay? Or picture when you're sitting at your home desk or trying to get something done. And you have a specific task and a specific goal in mind. And if you just sat down and did that one thing, you'd be done and you could move on. And likely the quality of the output would be pretty good if you just did that. But that's not how I roll. Like I have low patience, and one of the markers of low patience is enjoying multiple priorities at one time. And not ever doing anything in the same order more than once at a time, just because I get bored. And having too many priorities on my plate in case something falls off and I get bored. You sensing a pattern? So I'm sitting at my desk with this very one specific task in mind, and it's a pretty big lift. It's going to take a while. And so what do? I open up my email. Maybe I should just do email quick. And then I got like 4 texts I haven't looked at. I should just quick do those. I wonder if I should. And there I'm off to the races, right? And every little stimulus that comes in, another text sound, an email bing, or whatever, I feel so exposed and out of whack because it's too much. Rather than just noticing that I'm allowing all these things to stimulate my mind, my whole being.
So in one way, that sounds like a great procrastination technique, right? Like allowing yourself to get distracted all the time.
That's exactly what it was.
But
it was that.
Yeah. But so let's just think about that for a minute. What you said, it's like you knew you had a task to do, and it was a big task. And the thing that was actually triggering your procrastination was all these like kind of little outside stimulus things, right? So if your phone...
I didn't want to do the task either. I mean, I did, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, to me, we've talked about the effects of social media and always on, always connected world we live in.
Yeah.
And when you think about it in the context of doing your work and maybe being overstimulated, boy, like those email dings and those text messages, they're so hard to deal with when you just need to sit down and crank out a couple hours worth of focused work.
Yeah.
Especially when you're already high emotion. They will just topple you right over.
Do you feel like that too? Because you've been busy the last couple of weeks. Like, what's your experience with this?
Yeah, I would say like my busyness causes more busyness. Like, I don't know why. Like, whenever I get really busy, what I do is I thrust myself into even more projects, like you're saying, at work, at home.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I would sign myself up for more torture, or like more chaos. It's like I just want like some chaos, and then that negates more chaos, and then all of a sudden it's like a full-blown chaos tornado.
Do you know how I always know that you're in that state? Because you're, as people you've talked about over the years, you're a more introverted person. So you're not going to be squawking about it. You're not probably going to say anything. But a number one sign is you're running 3 minutes late.
Yeah. I was late today.
You're never late. You're never late. But I can always tell, and then it's like, oh,
like right on the edge. I'm right on the edge.
What are the things that you do when you feel like you're in this spot? You ask me. What do you feel like you do? When you're in this, you get really, what do you do to try to bring yourself down?
What do I try to do to,
yeah. I know you don't eat, well,
question.
Once in a while you'll have a little piece of chocolate or a little bag of Doritos.
The thing that actually really helps me, and this is kind of like me almost like leaning in a little bit. The thing that will help me get out of this funk, and I actually did it yesterday, was I go clean the house. I clean.
Oh, so I do that too. Actually, I forgot about that.
Weird thing for me that's very cathartic about just going to do the dishes. I knew I was getting super overwhelmed with a bunch of things that I had in flight. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go clean the kitchen. And so I just did all the dishes, and I actually meal prepped the entire week. I cooked 5 meals yesterday.
Oh my God.
I have them all in the refrigerator and sorted and nice and tidy.
Unbelievable.
I didn't eat any of them yet, but
unbelievable. That is so healthy. What you just described is so healthy.
It's so
JJ.
healthy. So what did I tell you is what I ate today? Remember, I came in hot on this podcast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You had a protein shake and some Doritos.
Yeah, not the salad I made.
Yeah, and that's
not
all you've
the
eaten
salad
today.
I made yesterday because I don't have time to eat the salad. That takes a while. It's a lot of chewing.
I think it's really important to talk about this stuff, though, because we just don't realize our own processes unless we sit down and actually start thinking about them on purpose, And it's how things can trigger us, and we continually get wound up faster and faster and faster before we recognize that we are there, And then we have all these, these covering techniques that we do, or coping techniques. That's really what it more feels like.
Definitely. So think about even times in your personal life, right? There's things that happen, maybe, a loved one passes away and you have to maybe deal with a lot of the funeral arrangements or family things. Just reflect on how you've seen other people act during those times. And what's interesting is I like to think I'm a pretty flexible person. I can really adapt to a lot of things, but in some ways, I can't adapt to a lot more change or variation as maybe I think, right? So this idea, you were sharing, maybe just a couple of little more things during a high output time in your work throws you off. Or same with me, I've got a bunch of balls in the air and I just can't even deal with one more. But that might not be I have 2 or 3 times as much work as normal. It could just be a little bit more, 10% more.
Yeah. Do you know what else I was just thinking about? As crazy as my schedule has been, and we all have these moments when we're just nuts and we just feel like we don't have any control. I think that's a part of it too, is feeling like our schedules are out of control and we simply can't do anything about it. Here's what's interesting about that. So my dad called and my bonus mom, and they said, hey, let's go to the state fair. And we go every year. And I don't know how many more years we'll get to do that, And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. What day? And then I was thinking, oh, it'd be so much better to go during the weekend because I'm so busy with work. And then they said, well, we really don't want to go on the weekend because it's so crowded. And I heard myself say, well, just pick a day. And whatever day they chose, I said, I'm doing it. And all of a sudden, the stuff on my calendar that was so non-negotiable, when faced with a true priority that really mattered, I had no problem saying, absolutely no problem. I'm going to clear my calendar. Isn't that interesting? So it's like, sometimes I think we get in our heads that we have, it's this whole issue of control or non-control. Once it's on the calendar, you just got to do it.
Right.
Once something's said, you're
and
committed.
What's really priority? Yeah.
Maybe some of that's just BS.
What's really important? What's really a priority? What's not? Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes I actually think too, we get so in the moment that we get running, like you're working on a special project right now. And that is requiring a lot of your time, some travel, some energy. And it's so easy to get into this mindset that we just got to do it. Oh, it's just this moment in time. Just got to do it. Just got to do it.
It's a tunnel vision problem. Like you get really focused on something and you're just tunnel visioned into it. And you've said it 100 times. It's like the best way to combat that is to zoom out, right? Like look at the bigger picture.
So hard to do that when you're in the middle of the flight, isn't it?
Yeah, almost impossible. Like unless someone is able to help you see it.
I know. So how do we take our inventory and notice when we're in like this full cry mode? And we're being triggered by everything else. And
part of being in
so hard
in that cycle is that it actually kind of feels good in some way to be in that cycle. So
yeah, I know.
You're like, I'm getting
feels
so
like
much
you're
done.
getting
I'm being
something
so
done.
productive. I'm stepping up to the next level. There's so many
I'm important
phrases that go along with me at least being in that state that I kind of like it
I
sometimes,
think that's true for
even
all of
though
us.
It's an
ego boost. Sadly. There it is again. Sneaky ego.
My favorite meditation mantra is that if you don't have 20 minutes a day to meditate, you need to meditate for an hour. It's the same kind of thing.
I love that.
If you are finding yourself so busy or preoccupied or overwhelmed with things, what you actually need to do is slow down. Yeah.
That is your indicator. Coming into fall, which we will be soon, with all the kids going back to school and sports starting and church programs starting and after school programs and all of these things, this is when parents panic because they've been trying to manage this non-typical summer schedule. And now they have the emotional gut ache of now that's going to be done. I'm already so busy with work and with priorities. And then all of this stuff's going to get heaped on. I mean, it's coming like a freight train. And I think this is a really good topic to actually consider what's truth.
Yep. We've talked about it a bit, but like I've observed with my friends and our neighbors how they'll be like around their kids with sports, way overcommitted on kids sports stuff. And then they'll complain about how they don't have any time and they're running here and there. And then I was like, and I always think like
at crazy hours.
Didn't you fill out the form to sign the kids up for that? Like, but that's kind of an example. Like it's a self-inflicted wound, right?
And we've both done that. We've both done that. With
no judgment on that. It just it's one of those things where it is a good time to maybe sit back and think like, should we still be doing this?
Well, what's funny is I actually feel better just having this conversation with you right now. It makes me feel better. It makes me realize we get off on these crazy tangents, mentally, physically. We get off on these crazy calendar tangents, like in these moments where we feel like we're just running with the choke open, and to remember that we actually can find peace is so valuable. And I think we can find peace in all sorts of places. We can even find peace by simply changing the narratives in our heads. And I think this is something that I've been working on lately, is to, because I like to have 75 things going on at once. I'm always like 3 or 4 days out, like, oh, and then by this I have to do this, and by this I have to do that. Even just shortening your view of your calendar and recognizing the emotions and the energy just within this day. That's helped me a lot. And it's also helped me accomplish more, which is a weird byproduct.
So
I
are you
wasn't
saying
expecting,
like you're not looking so far ahead in your calendar of like what's coming up? Like you are currently not super worried about Christmas?
Exactly.
Right.
Or Halloween candy. I mean, come on, here we go. But no, for real, I am making an intentional decision. Now, obviously, we can't do that with the big stuff. Like I'm talking about these, like as I gave the description of doing these big group events, obviously there has to be some planning in that. But there's so much of our lives that we simply do not have to feel anxious about. We don't have to feel anxious, because what is, and what will be. And there's no such thing as being perfect, And sometimes even in the crazier moments where maybe we've already set ourselves up and we have no recourse, or most of it we can't change, I do still think that it's so great to come back to your true intention. And if your intention is, what do I need to do for myself today so that I feel good and I can breathe all the way down into my stomach? Like that's the phrase I've been really sort of reflecting on. It's like, because I notice when I'm anxious or really, really busy, I start like shallow breathing, or I just never sit and take a deep breath because I just don't feel like I have the room to.
Exercise. Like, what can I do for myself today is not a question that I'll ask very often. I never think about that. Like I think about what can I do for others today? Right? What can I do for my family? What can I do for my business? What
are people expecting?
What are those things? But what are the things I can do for myself today? It feels like a selfish question. Yeah. However, it's not. I'm no good to anybody else if I'm not taking care of myself. So the way I can take care of others better is at least make sure I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah. And I think it's this whole, and I know some of my clients listen to this podcast and they'll say, oh yeah, you've said that a million times. But I always say what we have to add to all of our intentions is, and me too, whether we're doing mantras or praying, or we're just pushing out like, I really hope that they do well. I really want that person to do well. And me too. Like always adding and me too, because the world is abundant. There is an abundant supply of absolutely everything we need. And when we can take that deep breath and just say, if I'm taking care of myself, then I know that I'm setting a good example for others to do the same. Yep. It's like with your intention in mind. So I just feel like in all of this discussion, I'm not putting my chocolate away. I'm never probably going to do that. However, I do feel like this has been a really good reminder to just take a deep breath all the way into my stomach. And you too, even though we're busy, it's okay. We won't always be busy. And maybe next time when we're given an opportunity, we won't make ourselves so frenetic in the moment.
Good chat, Melissa. Now get back to work.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.